Hope you're all having very productive days, and hopefully it's going to be a bit more productive now that we are going to be looking at today's webinar, which is importing records, as you can see in front of you there. My name is Matt. I'm going to be guiding you through the process. Before I do that, let us go through the rules. So if you've been here before, you'll know the rules. If not, these are them. So your microphone is muted automatically. If you need to cough or sneeze, don't worry. You're not going to interject anything that we're talking about today. You'll not hear any interruptions whatsoever. Now, with regards to interruptions, feel free to ask your questions. There's a speech bubble there with a question mark in it, and that is for you. So ask as many questions as you possibly can. It is just me today. I'm flying what's called flying solo. So if I do answer your question, it will be verbally answered. It won't be written down. So that means that you won't be able to see anybody else's questions either. That's only downside to that, okay? Other than that, though, there is a handout, a copy of today's slides attached to the webinar, one in colour and one in black and white. And not only that, an hour after the recording of this session, you will be sent it via email. So if you do get interrupted or you do have to go away for whatever reason, you'll be able to re-watch on demand and look at the processes that we've been doing today. So don't worry, we have you absolutely covered. It says on the opening slide that it's going to be around about 45 minutes. I'm expecting it to be a bit less than that, if I'm honest. Because once you get a handle of this process and the mechanics of importing records, it's kind of routine, if you know what I mean. It's like riding a bike. It's difficult. Once you know how to do it, you'll never forget it. So what we're going to be looking at? Well, introduction to importing records, preparing your data for importation. We're not going to be covering export today. It's a very popular question that comes in usually rather early on, but there's going to be no exporting today. It's all about importing records. We're going to go into a demonstration, and they're going to be quite similar, these demonstrations, because show you things to be doing and things to be looking out for as you're importing those records. Today I'm going to be focusing on customer records, but the mechanics are the same. So it's not subject specific at this point. Then we'll have a brief look at some troubleshooting, some common things that do pop up. And as I say, ask your questions all the way through. We'll get to them if I can. If not, I'll be in touch with you afterwards via email, just to let you know what the answer to your question is. So hopefully we're all good and ready. Okay, so let us begin importing records. Why, Matt? Why should we do this? Well, as it says on the slide there, you've got a large amount of data to enter. Instead of sitting down and typing and typing and typing and typing a large batch of data manually, we all know how tedious that is, and also how much case human error can be involved in that. So it is quite error prone, that process. Importing your data lets you bring all the information into Sage just in one go, in a few clicks, whether it's new records or it's updating your existing ones. It's obviously for scenarios where you maybe, I don't know, switching systems, cleaning up your data, or you're starting a new company and you just want to import all the information in. So you can use it to add records like customer details, transactions, or, as I said, update your existing ones if you need to, like, refresh a lot of contact details at once, or just count settings, or, as I'm going to demonstrate to you, maybe do massive change of credit limit, which is something we're going to be touching on. So the benefits are quite clear, and they're written down there, saving you time. There's an element of flexibility to it as well as to what you import, what fields you're going to be importing. It helps reduce mistakes. And if you follow the guidance that we're going to go through today, mistakes should be absolutely minimal and fixable, importantly, if they do occur. So what can you import? Now, there are two main groups of things that we can import, records and transactions. Today we're looking at records. There is a standalone webinar for transactions. I advise you to have a look for that one on sage.co.uk/webinars. If you're particularly looking at transactions today, it is all about the records. And within that bracket, you've got custom supplier, normal account, product, project, and fixed asset. And that's what we're going to be looking at. Ideal if you're setting up your system or updating large batches of data. So to note as well, the options available may vary depending on the level of Sage software that you have. So if you can't see everything on the list to the right there on the screenshot may mean that you don't have the upgraded version of the product itself. But again, there's loads of guides and help and support out there for alternatives, potential alternatives, I should say. So preparing your data. Now, before you start importing, it's important to make sure that your data is in the right format. And Sage makes that incredibly easy for you. So as you can see again with the screenshot on the right-hand side there, we provide you with templates built in. You can use your own file, obviously if it matches the required structure, but we try and make it as easy as possible by providing you with these templates. And I'll show you where you can access those as well. Basically, it's what you see in front of you there, file import, Sage import template, Bob's your uncle. Now, if you're confident with your own spreadsheet, that's obviously going to be fine. You've just got to make sure that the columns match the Sage format. And the software, the wizard that we're going to use, is going to guide you through the process and flag anything that may need adjusting. So again, you can see the data import wizard there on the right-hand side. Get familiar with that because that's what we're going to be looking at this afternoon. So again, this is where we're going to be having a look. You see the first step after the welcome, backup. Can't emphasize this enough. It's always to back up. In a second, I'm just going to see. Should be able to see the screen there. I've just done a quick refresh there. Simon, if you could confirm, if you could see that again, if anybody else can confirm this one. Just wait for confirmation. Excellent, super, brilliant. I think there's a bit of a technical issue there, but we're through it now. So if you did, Simon, weren't able to see the initial screens, and if what you could do for me is download the handout, that'd be wonderful. Because it is a copy of the slides, so you'll be able to see everything that we've discussed. So what I was saying was taking a backup, very important. Super, brilliant, thanks, Simon. So taking a backup is extremely important because, as it says there, the data import procedure is not reversible. Okay, so when you import data, you're permanently changing those records. And if you do it incorrectly, and if you're importing, let's say, 500, 1,000, 1,500 at a time, then you're going to find yourself in a little bit of trouble trying to unpick any mistakes that have been in there. The easiest option is to revert back to a version of the data where there were no mistakes. I think, Diana, you had the same problem again with the screen there. So let me just quickly waltz through what I discussed again for you, if that's okay. We'll start here. So we went through the benefits. These were the screenshots we were talking about here. See the data import wizard on the right-hand side, the records, the transactions, which you can import, where to find the templates, the wizard on the right-hand side here. And then we're at this section here with backing up. Hopefully that's everybody caught up there, not too much missed. So yeah, it's irreversible. So the best thing to do is back up. Always back up your data before any major processing, and you will avoid a multitude of headaches moving forward. And in these demonstrations, thank you, Dana, in these demonstrations, we're going to be looking at file, import, data import wizard, and we're going to be looking at customer records. As I say, the mechanics is all the same, so have no fear. Now for this, what I'm going to be using is a blank company that I have just set up. So let me find that for you now. In fact, while we have the time, start a new company. Let's go through that process so you'll be able to see. So I'm going to create a new company here. I'm just going to call it Import Limited. Obviously, I better make it limited company. And what I want to do first off is I just want to make sure that I've got all my customers list in before I start putting any data in, just to make sure it's going to work. I'll obviously go through these more methodically if it was going to be a real company that I'm setting up. And I wouldn't recommend having such a short password at this instance. But again, just for the sake of demonstration. So you should now be able to see my fresh company on your screens. There we are, look, brand new. So we've got customers, quotations, and we've got absolutely nothing here. It's a shell of what we're going to be looking at. And what I want to do is I want to populate my customers section. That's what I want to do. Now, I don't have to be in this area of the program in order to start the process, because the process is started from up here. So File, Import. And I'm fine with closing any windows at all because I haven't been processing. So that brings me straight to the data import section. Now, just for confirmation of that, I'm just going to exit it. Let's say I was in quotations and I went File, Import. Same happens. So it doesn't matter on the left-hand side where you are. It's all operated from the top left there. So the welcome message, as I said before, little question bubble here. It gives you a recommendation to construct your data into .csv, comma separated value, XLS or XLSX or spreadsheets. It's all Excel. To help import your data, this is where the import templates are. When you click here, it takes you straight to that file. And as you can see, there's the file path up there. I'm using version 31 for the demonstration, by the way. And you've got all of these templates here. And what you can do is you can double click into them and you can start completing them if you wanted to. That's a brief view of what they look like. We're going to be looking at these in more detail through the session. That's where they all hide, where they all live. Most important thing, what we want to do first is back up. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Matt, why are you backing up? You've done nothing in this company yet. Well, basically, because I don't have to start again. If I've just spent all this time doing my VAT, registration codes, my address, all that, and then all of a sudden I import my supplies and my customers and my customers and my suppliers, I'm not going to be a very happy chappy. So what I want to do is make sure that the shell that I've set up here is backed up. Simple. And I'll do pre-import as a clue. I might save that to my, I save it to my download so I know where it is. There. And I'll just click OK. And what this is going to do is just going to check my data first and save the backup to that file path. We're all familiar with that process. It's going to be a quick process, this, because there's nothing in there. With you, it might take a wee bit longer. So my first bit of advice for you is before you start this process and importing, is make sure that you're the only one in that company in Sage at that time, because it's a user exclusive area of the program. You can't be importing records if anybody else is using the program. If you go and try to do that, you'll get that message saying cannot do this because X is in the program. So when you're doing this, just make sure it's just you doing it. Logged in as manager, boom. Nice and simple. So now that we've backed up, spot on. Now, again, I'm going to emphasize this. If you're wanting to import data, please back up. It's an absolute must. If you want to practice this, go to your demonstration data and practice it in there if you want to, or if you've got the ability to, and your license allows, start a blank company to practice in, or use your practice demo data. It's up to you. Once we've done all that though, and these checks, click on next, and this gives you the data type that we looked at briefly on the slides. Today I'm going to be doing customer records, but as you can see, there's the other available options there. And again, just going to click next. So this is the data source. Step 3, select the format of the data that you're going to be importing. So again, it's up to you what you select here, depending on the file that you're going to be using. I'm using Excel, so mine's an Excel worksheet. All I have to do is locate it. Now, just like Blue Peter, here's something I prepared earlier. I've got my import files here. And these are the ones I'm going to be using to demo. A little bit of a tip. It's just to help you process. You don't have to do this at all. But if you are going to be recording customer data, supply data, or whatever data it is separately, keep it in the folder that's easily accessible if you're going to be regularly importing records. If you're going to be regularly importing records, then think about using the template that we provide permanently rather than your own version. But again, it's up to your processing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how easy this can be. So I'm going to browse. I am going to go to my desktop, go to my import files. I'm using file with headings for the first one, and there's a reason for that. It's because the first row of my file contains headings. Now, before I do the import, I'll show you what I mean. Just in case you don't know, a lot of people will be saying, I already know this, Matt, but just in case, these parts here are the headings. Underneath is the data. So if I do have column headings in my sheet, then I would say the first row contains headings. I will click next. And then it takes me to the field mappings. And this is where a lot of people do get confused, and I understand it, because if it's the first time you've done it, you're like, oh, what's going on here? But all you're doing is essentially telling Sage where to get the information from. So this is what's input in Sage on your customer record: the account reference, account name, street 2, da 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 da. As you'll notice, only one is asterisked, and that is the account reference. So this is absolutely required. Now, on my spreadsheet, as I showed you before, we did have a heading called ACREF. So I've made it easy for myself. ACREF, account reference, there you go. I've mapped those two successfully. I will then go down, do the rest. So address 1, address 2, it's almost like I planned it. Address 3, down to address 4. Now you could be clever and hotkey this if you wanted to by pressing your keys. Add 5, so for contact, press C and contact will pop up. For telephone number, T and tel will pop up, that kind of thing. And then I'm happy. I have mapped everything from my spreadsheet on the left-hand side to everything where it's going to go in the Sage on the right-hand side. So it's going from left to right on this one. This column here is a required field, and as it tells you, it needs to know where to put these things. And if there isn't something there, it will create it for you. Now these buttons at the bottom here, I'm going to go through these in a little bit more detail later on, but these are where you essentially save the maps, load your maps, or clear the maps. So if you wanted to clear all this, you would press clear. If you wanted to save it as a template for future imports, you click save, file name. And if you've already got a mapping sorted out, you click load map, but I'm going to go through the mechanics of that shortly, don't worry. So config welcome, set my data type, my source, so customer, spreadsheet, field mapping's done. What's next? Exactly what's next. So this is a summary of what I've selected. So again, it gives you a little menu of what you've picked. All fields have been mapped. It's very happy. I click import. Now, I'm using a small set of data here. If you're using a large data, it may take its time. But as you can see, of that spreadsheet, this is what it's picked up, which is everything that's on there. And nothing has been left off. Click close. Now we head to customers. There we are. All the information is there. Back to that there. So all the information is there for you to see. So if we were to click on, let's click on A1 Design Services, one that I've just imported there. Account reference came through, company name, contact information, telephone number, address, everything that I selected came through. Anything that I didn't select or didn't enter didn't pull through. So one thing to look out for though, if you are setting up customers in this way and importing them, things like tax codes, etc., aren't going to be included in what I've just imported. So if I'm not importing that detail, it's going to default to whatever in your settings and customer default section. So in this instance, standard tax code T1. So any information that you're not importing that is required, i.e. the tax code, it's going to default to whatever's in the settings section. Hopefully that answers any questions on that one. But that's how easy the import is. File, import, go through these sections, obviously always back up, and job's good. So that was the file with headings. Now what about one without headings, just in case? So again, file, import, always back up. Click next, go to custom records. Again, it's an Excel spreadsheet. This one is no headings. So if we have a brief look at that before I import, you can see all the data is just whacked in there. So what happens if I say it does contain headings and I don't change that tick box there, this is what happens. I get the first line treated as if it was the headings. So these are account details of somebody else. That's why it's important to know if you have headings or not. If I take that tick out, click next, what it's then going to do is ask me to assign columns. So in column A, that's where I had the account reference. In column B, that's where I had the account name. Just to show you this, again, column A, account reference, column B, company name, address, and address, etc., etc. So it's asking you columns rather than titles on this one. Causes a lot of confusion. It's a bit core driver, but it's easily settled because now you're just assigning columns to Sage. If I quickly do these for you, we CD. I did them all alphabetically. It's a lot easier, isn't it? So this would fall under your preparation section, making sure that you understand what's on the spreadsheet and where it is, because you're telling Sage where to get it from. If that makes sense. Excellent. So in this instance, the spreadsheet that I showed you there, we did have contact name and telephone number on, but I'm going to choose not to import them on this one because I don't have to. So I'm not going to with this section. So I'm going to click next. This is what I'm going to be doing. Tells me what I'm doing. 7 of 62 fields have been mapped. So I'm being selective over what information that I am going to import. And click import. These are all new customers as well. As you can see, all successful. Perfect world scenario. I'll click close. Go to customers, and you can see now we're up to 20. Look at that. And you can see there's no contact details that have been imported for these guys either, because we left it off intentionally. So again, you'll be very selective over what you can and can't import on that one. So the next import is going to be potentially the easiest one. So it's a breeze. Again, we will take our backup. Promise me that you'll always do that before you do any imports. We'll click next, customer records, and spreadsheet. And this time we're going to use the Sage import template. I showed you that briefly before. Let's have a look at it here. So this is every single field that would be required. Well, not required, should I say, but you could enter if you wanted to. I'm not going to go through the whole list. You can see it's expansive, but it's set up perfectly. In the account reference section, you can see it's coded blue, and that's because that is an absolute must. It is required. It must be completed. You need that as a minimum. And that needs to be 8 characters maximum. There are rules on what can be imported into certain areas of the program. In account reference, a big call that we get is it won't import. I'll show you what happens when that happens later on, but always try to stick to 8, because that's the maximum. Close that. So does it contain headings? Is the question I'm going to answer for you. Yes, it does. Click next. And look what's happened this time. Because it's mirroring exactly what Sage requires, and it's written in exactly the same way, no mapping or manual mapping is required. Everything matches identically. No difference. So I'm happy with that. Just click next and import. Same again. And if we go to customers, you'll see now we're at 29. Superb. So you can see the mechanics are very much the same each and every single time, really, aren't they? What we're going to have a look at now is the multi-sheet option. So again, file, import. If you have an Excel spreadsheet that does have multiple layers to it, Sage cracked that one for you also. So you can see down here, I think when you start a workbook, I think 3 sheets is the minimum on it. And your customer list in this instance might be part of a larger set of data, as we've got here, you see. So when we come to import this, we want to make sure that, again, we back up, we want to make sure that it's picking up the correct sheet, don't we? So again, I'll browse, go to the multiple worksheets that I'm going to be using on as headings, and it'll tell me which sheet to pick out of the 3 here. But did I want marketing data? No. Sheet 2 just had some random statistics on it. Sheet 1 is the one that I was going to be looking at. And again, just for the proof in the pudding there, again, it's all about your preparation, knowing where you're going to be pointing Sage to get the information. Got account headings as well. So it'll just be another way of uploading your data if it does have multiple worksheets on there. I think by now you're guessing how simple this can be, the process, once you get going. Something a bit more complex here. Let's say you've got your own style spreadsheet, back to that again, and you're going to be making changes to it. And then what you don't want to be doing is using the same spreadsheet and mapping every single time, because it might be thousands. Right now. So if we go to import, back up the data, customer record, spreadsheet, and we look at demo mapping, I'll show you what this one looks like. Again, like prepare this one we've prepared earlier. Account ref, name, add 1, add 2, add 3, add 4 are all titles that don't match anything in Sage. Same as contact and tell. Postcode does. So if I was to close this, it automatically maps for me. So just like using the Sage template, if it's too big for you and you want your own little version of that template, you can create one, and it will auto map if the columns match. So whatever's on the spreadsheet matches what the customer record will say in Sage 50 accounts. Let's say, for example, that you've got your own way of doing things, and you're not too particular about that one, and you want to save a mapping of how it works. You would do, yep, account reference, that's what we use. We use name, yep, we use add 1, yep, we use add 2 for that one, and you can quickly do this for one time. Add 4. This time I'm going to do contact name, and I am going to do telephone number. There we are. What I can do here is if I know I'm going to be using this map every single time, and this is the map I'm going to be using to point Sage towards to get the information, I can save it by clicking save. I'm going to call this custom. Call it what you like. I'm just going to call it that. And then I'm going to click next. Now it'll allow me to import. Now next time I can do file, import, backup, obviously, customer records, browse to the file. I'll have to go back to my desktop, import file here, simple mapping. And this time I'm going to load my map. So look at that, when I've clicked open, it's all populated. So I clear it again, load map. All populated. So it's a really, really, really simple process. It's a good question coming from Simon with regards to the general ledger there. Would you use it the same? I would look at the separate transactions webinar for a better answer on that one, because if I'm honest with you, I could go off on a tangent and we could go to 15 or 20 minutes with this one. But the mechanics are roughly the same, but it's different fields, I'll say, Simon, on that one. So all intents and purposes, but the best thing to do is watch that webinar, sage.co.uk/webinars, and look for importing transactions, or go to YouTube, type in important transactions, say 50 accounts, and you'll get our YouTube channel on there. I think it's one that Michael built and delivered, so it's very informative. So yeah, but it's generally, as we've tried to keep everything in Sage, kind of the same mechanic. There's just little different things that you may need to do with that one. But really good question, thanks for asking. So back to this, loading your map, nice and easy. So it means that if you're not using our template and you don't want to be importing and typing this in every single time, save the map and then load it. Job's a good one. Click next, import, finished. Now, another one that comes through quite often is if you're in specifically customers, but again, this could be any kind of balance, any kind of column, be it suppliers or what have you. But can you import additional information into multiple records at the same time? The answer is yes. So in this instance, we're going to look at credit limit. Let's say I want credit limits now for certain customers to be X, Y, or Z. Now, again, just like Blue Peter, here's one I loaded earlier. So these are my new credit limits. What I'm going to say is let's concentrate on the top one here. So Michael, you'll like that one. And the time is 14:34. So let's just so you know I've changed it. I'm going to click save on that and then close out. So if you were doing this just for one customer, manually change it. But if you're doing it for a lot of customers, use the import. So as you can see, credit limit here is all zeros, right? It's important for you to see that. So what we're going to do is go file, import, backup, always, records, browse to that file, because on my desktop, you may import files. Did it contain headings? So we have a look. This is a good thing about this, is that let you have a look first. Yes, it did. So I've set it up this way, so you can see it's pulled through name and contact on there. I don't want to import those, do I? So I would select them and blank them out. Again, name, don't want to import that, do I? So I'd select it and blank it out. What I do want to import is the account reference, because I need Sage to know where to get this, put this information. So I'm mapping those two together. And then I need to find the credit limit. And I need to find the credit limit here as well. So now I'm instructing Sage on the right to look in my Excel spreadsheet on the left into the credit limit column and apply that data to the account references that are in the account reference column. Again, if you're going to be doing this quite a lot, so you may change credit limits seasonally. At Christmas, you may give people larger credit limits, perhaps, and then reduce them in January when things are a bit more thrifty. If you're going to do the large all at once, this is the way you're doing it. So click next. Yes. I'm going to say records. Save that there. We're going to try and import this now. And there we have it. These are all the changes that are going to be made. So we click close, go to our customers. There's the credit limit there, 1434. That took 2 minutes of me talking as well. So you can see how quickly this can be done. You can do it in 30 seconds if you've got the information, unless you're obviously like me explaining it. You can quickly whiz through these things. As long as you've got your data prepared, you're absolutely fine. And if not, you can sort it out in that mapping section, you see. Now, back to the slides, there is issues that some people come across when they're importing files. Some of them are easier to fix than others. Sometimes it's down to, I hate using the word, but a corrupt Excel spreadsheet. So sometimes the quickest fix in the world, if all the mappings are correct, all the information is correct, and it fits the template, it fits the importing laws, should I say, and there may be something wrong with that spreadsheet. So a simple fix is to copy and paste that spreadsheet into a blank worksheet and try and import that. If that works, it means that what you're working off wasn't very well for whatever reason. However, there can be easier fixes than that to some of the issues. So as you can see here, import file still open. I'm going to demo it, but I think you can all guess what the problem's going to be. So if I was to open up demo own file with headings here, okay, see it, why? I'm just going to minimize, not close it. I'm going to go file, import, do all the backings up, all that kind of stuff. There we are. Select that file. It's on my desktop in my import files here. Can't do it. Files in use. Genuinely happens quite a lot. So all you have to do is close that file. And then when you click open, it'll allow you to open it. Obviously, I'm not going to re-import that there. So I'm going to cancel out of that. Big core driver. Big core driver, that one. The next one is what's called a legal sales or purchase ledger. Okay. So account reference, one of these three options there. So if we go file, import, click next, customer record, browse, and a legal account reference. I click next, and I select all. Absolutely fine. I don't want to save that APIP file there. I click import. All of these have 8 characters. So they've imported. However, if I open the spreadsheet and I add 234, click save, close. Then go to file, import, do my backings up as always, customer records. Account reference number here. Click next. That's, oh, I map the account reference. Next, I'm not going to save the changes to the mapping file. Yeah, we get the error. Error in record 1, account reference, illegal sales ledger account reference. So if I go back to that spreadsheet there, this is another call driver as well that we get, common calls. You can see it references error in record 1. Now, record 1 doesn't necessarily mean row 1, because remember you've got the headings. So it's the first record, which is this one. So it's saying there's an error, particularly in this record. How do you fix it? Well, again, you go by what the rules are, what the laws are, because it says it's illegal. You would delete as many as you needed in order to make it fit. The maximum is 8 characters in that one. So there's a guide as well, attached in the handout, that'll show you what the rules are when you're importing. But you can also edit the import quite handily from this button down here if you do have any issues. I've already edited it, so it's not going to reload. Close, and then what you would have to do is once you fix that error, file, import, and start that process again. So again, it's all down to the preparation, the majority of it. Hopefully you can see my screen there. So we had some good questions coming in. I've answered them as we've gone along. The only one that I really called out there was Simon's, but again, we had some good questions that have been answered through what we've been showing you. I urge you now, if you've got any more questions, just fire them in. We've got a few minutes left. If we can't answer it now, you could always go to sage.co.uk/help, search knowledge base, have a look at the support guides, watch the pre-recorded webinars, or past recorded, should I say, webinars that we've got there. Look at some of the videos that we have. If all of that fails you, which I'm sure it won't, please get in touch. Give us a call. If you've got a telephone subscription, give us a call. If you have the chat function, use the chat bot that we have. We've also got live human chat also. We've got Sage Copilot, because the webinar's on that one. So if you haven't already, get stuck into Sage Copilot. AI is here. It is making everything quicker. I've run a webinar on AI in general, not just Sage AI, but I've got an AI kind of all-encompassing webinar that I ran, and I'm going to start running that again next year as well, with more added to it. So if you are apprehensive about AI in the workplace and you do have any questions, I urge you to watch the webinar that I made on that. And again, sage.co.uk/webinars, or join the ones that I'm going to be starting in January, a little series. No questions have come in. Hopefully that's a good sign. So all that's left for me to do is thank you for your ears and attendance today. So thank you very much indeed. It's been lovely going through all of this process, and hopefully it's going to save you bags of time. If you do have any feedback, please leave us feedback, complete the survey. We read absolutely every single comment. And if you have any suggestions about what you want covered in the future, that's where we get our ideas from. And enough people ask for it that we build it and we basically put the session on. So please complete that survey for me. Other than that, I'm going to leave you to your Thursdays. Thank you again very much for your time, and I hope you have all wonderful weekends. Speak soon. Bye for now.